Yes, good morning. Good morning. Let's have a transfer update show. Um yeah, guys, look, it's almost welcome to everyone. How are you all? Happy New Year for anyone I've not seen. Hope everybody is well. Um I think it's almost impossible to be mad at this club anymore because they just do the same thing over and over again. And I don't know how much longer we can all expect something different's going to happen. I've asked in the poll, there's a poll in the chat in regards to Daniel Levy. And again, like I was somebody who really didn't like Daniel Levy, but are we seeing that the club is being run in exactly the same way as before? And after Daniel Levy, with Daniel Levy, and after Daniel Levy. Look, I don't know I don't know if I can be angry anymore. I don't know if there's anything worth being upset or angry about. This is Tottenham. This is what we are. Um, it was a big opportunity, wasn't it? I think in a lot of people's eyes. I think it was something's in my eye. Talking of eyes. I think in a lot of people's eyes, this was a really big window from the point of view, not that hang on, let's line the camera up properly. There we go. I wondered why I was a little bit off kilter. I think it was a really good opportunity, sorry, for a window to show that something had changed, to show that there was a plan, to show that they've been working in the background, to show that we had intent. And I think that's a key word, right? Intent. We can talk about which players end up coming in and that, but what's the intent? Where was the plan? What was the process? And for me, it's just this is a normal transfer window for me at Spurs so far. Yeah, we're only 7 days into it, but I think a lot of people were saying, right, show us that show us that it was different. Show the intent. Go and wrap up a couple of signings in week one. Show us the intent. Go and wrap up some signings that drop straight in, make the 11 better. And you go, yeah, that's good. And we are 7 days in. So what are we? Just under a quarter of the way, 7:40. Yeah, what are we? Just under a quarter of the way through the window. And the only bid that we know of, again, it's all very difficult, right? Because people can work in the darkness and behind the scenes. But in terms of living in a world where most bids are in the public domain, we have bid for a 19-year-old left back, and I can't even be angry at it. And it's not about him. It's not. I've got nothing against the player. I don't know him. I've just seen some videos of him. But again, I look at it and go, if this is what we're doing, this is why I can no longer get involved in who the manager is debate. I just don't care if we're going to back our managers with 19-year-old kids over and over and over again. Then I don't know what we're actually doing here. Listen, I'll be honest. I was one of the people that I was very adamant I would have rather stayed at White Hart Lane. Look, you've got a team like Aston Villa that have stayed at Villa Park and seem to make it work and are challenging every year for the top four. But we're led to believe that we had to move into this massive stadium to compete. And we just got worse and worse and worse. Look, it's the potential versus proven argument, isn't it? Let's be fair. That's what it is. And already I'm seeing loads of things being sent to me about, but Savva, I've seen this Sousa play and he's special. And fine. This isn't about Sousa, but again, this is what we do. And it doesn't matter who the manager is. This is what we've done for years. Like whether it was Conte or Jose or Poch or Ange or whoever, Frank now, they're getting all of these subpar signings and then we wonder why. And then people are going, I think we should be top four. And I'm like, should we? Should we be top four? We should be rocking up and just battering Sunderland. Should we? I genuinely don't think that we're that team anymore. And it's a real shame, isn't it? I think that's the key thing. If we're calm about it, I think that's the key thing. It's such a shame. I believe that this rise. Bear with me 1 second because it is bloody freezing. This rise from Spurs being a bottom half table team to a team that challenges for top four started in the Martin Jol era. And then I think that was taken forward again by Redknapp and by Poch. And since that time, and I know Conte had the 1 year where he managed to get us fourth, but in general, since the Pochettino era, it's just been really lackluster, hasn't it? It's been really lackluster. And this transfer window has started the same. Now, that doesn't mean it needs to end that way at all. Doesn't mean it needs to end that way. But again, I'm just seeing links all over the place with 19-year-olds. 19-year-olds. That's all we're linked with. And look, let me show you this. So again, I don't know how concrete this is, but straight away, you look at this. Ben Jacobs understands that 19-year-old winger Sani Sullean is drawing interest from Spurs, Frankfurt, Anderlecht and Sevilla. And then no teenager from outside Europe's Big Five leagues has more progressive ball carries per 90. And it's a Slovak side, AS Trenčín. Is it Trenčín? Want around 6 million. And I've just gone on and had a look. And again, like he's just turned 19. So like, if I'm not wrong, let me just double check this. Well, look, he's 20 in September. And again, it's, look, I don't know. There's just too many reports like this. There's too many reports like this that we're just constantly looking for kids. And you think our fan base turn their noses up at the likes of, I mean, I did a video yesterday about Conor Gallagher, right? And the number of people that message saying, I don't want Conor Gallagher. And you're thinking, but you want Bergvall and Gray. How do you not want Conor Gallagher? And then we're linked with all of these kids and we don't want them. And then, people want these top players, but we know realistically the top players don't want to join. And I don't know where we go. And that's why I know people want me to be more angry and more vocal about the manager and league position and progressive passes and goals scored, goals. I'm genuinely looking at Spurs going, I don't recognize them. I don't recognize this is the team that I love. I watch this and go, look, do you know what? I can't even take credit for this. And I don't know if my man Philly is in the chat. If you are Philly, big up to you. Philly said this earlier, and I thought he was absolutely spot on. He said, I don't expect anything but Spurs to go round with a begging bowl at the end of the window, like they always do, desperately picking up scraps and knockoffs left in the market that other teams don't want. In Spurs world, we backed the manager. In reality, we just dumped more random players on another manager with no plan in place. And he said, get the best out of that FC. And you know what, Philly? Big up to you, my man. It's so true, isn't it? It's like, as I said, when we were in the summer window and everyone was going, look at the players that came in. I looked at him and went, there's no plan there. You've got 2 players on loan. How are you planning when 2 of your 4 signings are on loan? What are you planning for? What is it that we're planning for? I just genuinely don't know. And it's only 7 days in. It's not like, oh my God, the transfer window shut. But I think it's the trust, isn't it? I think it's the trust issue that nobody, God, it is freezing, by the way. Nobody that I know seems to have trust in what we're going to do. There's no credit in the bank from the scouts, is there? There's no credit in the bank to say, oh, okay, we trust them. Like if you're a Brighton fan, you trust your scouts, don't you? If you're a Brighton fan, if you're a Brentford fan, you trust your scouts because you've seen how you recruit for years and years and years. When I look at our scouts, I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it in any way, shape, or form. More reports this morning that Strand Larsen is going to be checked. Now, the Strand Larsen's, he's okay, isn't he? He's an okay Premier League centre forward. That's not someone that a Tottenham Hotspur should be buying, is it? So I look at Sousa, Strand Larson, whoever this kid is, Sullean, and I just go, what are we doing? And then people really want fans to be riled up. Get the manager. What's the point? What's the point? The new manager's coming into this. What's the point? What is the point? I genuinely, I don't see a point, right? I think that whoever's going to be working with this club is going to have to work with young players. And the problem is everyone expects that what Poch did with a few young players can automatically be replicated by a new manager and a new set of young players. Problem is, sometimes it's the right time, the right manager, the right place. And everything married up really well, didn't it? Poch was a very good coach. Those young players people like Christian Eriksen, they were young, but I mean, this was one of the most highly sought after young players in Europe when he was playing for Ajax. You know, it all worked, didn't it? It all just married up really well. And when I look at it now, I'm just not sure where we go. I'm not sure where we go. I'm not sure how upset or angry anyone can be anymore, because we know this is how we act. And this is why I asked the question about Daniel. This isn't about, oh my God, Levy was great, but was Levy just a pawn in this game? Was Levy just one of ENIC's puppets? Because so far, nothing's changed. We were told the communication would change. I haven't seen any communication out of the club. They just leave it all to Thomas Frank, push him in front of the camera. We were told the transfers would change. Well, the first signing we're about to do, post Daniel Levy, is a 19-year-old left back. What does that tell you? Good cup of tea, by the way. Good cup of tea. What does that tell you? If the first, do you know what? I actually messaged Sean. He'll back me up on this. I actually messaged Sean this morning. Here you go. This was my conversation with Sean. Right. There's nothing bad in there. I said, I'm going to say something you might like. And he put, I'm all ears, baby. And I said, as it stands, the way the club are acting, the lack of communication, signing more 19-year-olds, moving slower than a snail in the window, it actually points to Levy not being the issue. Maybe part of it, but not all of it. Now, I mean, dangerous to say that to Sean. He's going to hold that against me forever, isn't he? Sean's going to hold that over me forever. He'll probably post to that. But listen, that doesn't mean that that's definitely the way it's going to be moving forward. But so far, I've not seen anything that would suggest we're going different. Like, as I said, you know, come out the traps in the transfer window and show everyone that it's really, really different. Come out the traps and show that there was a plan. And if the plan is this 19-year-old left back, listen, again, I'm going to say no, nothing against this young lad. I hope he comes in. I hope he's brilliant. Good luck to him. Welcome to Spurs if you join. But what was the need to build the new stadium if this is all we wanted to do? Why didn't we just stay at White Hart Lane and buy kids? Do you know what I mean? Like, why not stay at White Hart Lane, buy 19-year-olds and hope that every 19-year-old becomes really good? Now, that's not to say that we're not going to buy a senior pro, but what we do is this. If Spurs this window, just hypothetically, if Spurs this window signed, get hypothetical. If Spurs this window signed Lookman and this 19-year-old left back, people are going, oh God, look, it's changed. But again, it hasn't, has it? Because 50% of your signings are just children again. There's no, there's no part of me that looks at Spurs and says, yeah, I really see what we're doing. And I know, like, I get it, right? And I'm doing very few lives right now. And I get it, right? That there's loads of people that just want to talk about one thing. I get it. But this is why I've said for ages now. And I said in the summer, if there's no plan, I just don't care anymore in terms of personnel. I just don't care. This is why everyone's getting annoyed at me. This is the manager you wanted. This is your manager. I'm looking at this squad and I'm just thinking to myself, well, who put this together? Two, what are we actually doing to try and make this better? Three, Frank is just another pawn in the game. The way Ange was, the way Conte was, the way Jose was, all in different ways, by the way, all in different ways. And this is why constantly now I'm getting Ange v Frank, Ange v Frank. It's like, well, they're different scenarios. Frank versus Conte, Conte versus Jose. They're all different scenarios, but we're seeing the same thing, that none of them are actually being backed. And when we use the word backed, again, I always use this quite loosely, guys. Backed can mean whatever you want it to mean, but I'm just talking about sensible signings. Just sensible signings. And look, you listen. I was sent a thread yesterday off X, and I'm not, I was sent a thread off X, and it was somebody who said, "Trust me, guys." I love when people start a post with "Trust me, this is the player. Trust me, this isn't the one." It's like, well, I don't know what that means. But this post started with, "Trust me, I watch Brazilian football. Sousa is generational." And you sit there and you go, we don't learn as a fan base, do we? We don't learn, because you see that someone like a Man City could buy Sousa at 19. He'll get minimal game time. He'll go out on loan. He'll be introduced into the team when Pep thinks he's ready. None of the Man City fans will be screaming and crying about having to see him play and how good he is and he's generational. At Tottenham, we'll bring him in and we'll have a section of the fan base that will just wax lyrical. The first thing he does, he puts in a great cross. Oh my God. Did you, he makes a 5-yard pass. Did you see that pass? We have fans that do this when we watch Archie Gray play now. People go, "Did you see that pass today?" Right. Professional footballer. What about building up the body of work? What about saying, "Did you see that game today from XYZ?" But we don't. We do this with Tell. I had this conversation, I won't say with who, someone the other day I had a phone call with. We were talking about, someone's going, "Oh, Tell played well." At what? He couldn't cross. He couldn't shoot. His passing was poor. What did he do well at? And this is the problem. I think this is it. I think where Daryl. I think this is absolutely it. This is absolutely it, Daryl. It is the hyperbole and the hope that our fans now sad state of affairs. Absolutely, mate. And we will do this again. As I said, you watch, if this Sousa signs, rather than saying, right, let's give him, let's give him half season, a year to settle. Let's see what he's like next year. What we'll do is we'll watch him have a game. And in a game, he'll have a great run or he'll beat a man or a whip a crossing. And we go, "Oh my God. Oh, this is the best young left back in world football." Right. And this is what we did with Bergvall. This is what we did with Gray. This is what we're doing with Telenodeber. And I get it to a degree that we're kind of forced into this. We're kind of forced into this because we don't buy what we need. But look, and again, this isn't, I need to make this really clear. This isn't about, 1 second. Who's this? Okay. This isn't about Sousa. This isn't about Sousa himself. I really hope if the lad comes in that he's really good. But Spurs don't even have a proper established left back right now. I mean, Udogie for me has never really established it. I think we've had 2.5 years. This is only me, guys. I've had 2.5 years of being really underwhelmed. Really underwhelmed with Udogie. I'm not sure. Again, though, we have these games where people, hype up. We hype up like Destiny Udogie. I've been told for years now, he's really good. He's that. If he's played in this position, I'm just looking at the basics. I'm just looking at the passing and the crossing. Like, it's just non-existent. And for me, if again, this is only my opinion. that don't work for the football club, right? If if we had anything about us right now, we'd be buying in a proper senior left back, and we would make that left back our number one left back, and we'd make a Dogie fight for that position. But we're going to do it arse about face, aren't we? As usual, we're going to do it arse about face. We're going to buy a 19-year-old left back, right? We're going to buy a 19-year-old left back to play understudy to a left back that hasn't even really cemented himself as a left back, who's never fit, who's never ever fit. And then we go, right, let's see what this kid does in a few years. And it's like, why not make a Dogie the guy that has to fight? Why not go and get? Again, I'm just chucking names. I'm talking about people with the ilk of, like when Villa bought Digne, Anthony Robinson. Why don't we go and get a seasoned? I'm not saying those two. I'm just talking about the ilk of player, the profile of player. Why don't we go and get a seasoned pro? And then when a Dogie's fit, you go, right, force your way in. Force your way into this team. But again, what we will do is, as the moment a Dogie's fit, he goes straight back into the 11, doesn't really do a lot, doesn't offer a lot going forward, never has. Defensively, he's all over the place. And then we go, oh, maybe let's give this 19-year-old a game. And that's fine. But for me, it just screams that we are trying to make this club a bottom half table. If this answers your question, it's live. It's live. And this is the key thing for me. Everyone's always going, oh, you're really harsh on the young players. I'm not, but these are the players we're buying. If you are buying these players to be in the first team at Tottenham Hotspur, right? If you are buying these players to be part of a Tottenham Hotspur football club, then they're going to go straight into the 11, and they're going to be judged the same way as the senior pros. And we all know what needs to be upgraded, but if you need to upgrade, you don't upgrade with more 19-year-olds, do you? No, there's going to be a few 19-year-olds who are special. We're not buying those special 19-year-olds. We're buying a lot of 19-year-olds that everyone thinks they know. The conversations I keep seeing online about Bergvall. Bergvall, Frank's not getting the best out of him. He's a deep-lying 8. He's not getting the best out of him. He's a 10. So, well, hang on. The fan base are chopping and changing their mind about what this player is. Maybe, just maybe, we don't know what he is yet. Maybe, just maybe, he's not as good as some people think. Maybe that's because we forced him into a team way too early, not given him the proper development because we expect him to start and be brilliant, and then everyone overhypes. I just don't know when Spurs are going to act like a club that's serious. Look at the first thing. Look at what Villa have built up under Unai Emery. Look at those midfield 4 or 5 that Villa have built up. All seasoned pros, all men. All men. Look what we've done. We've gone the opposite. In the same time that Unai Emery has been at Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur have amassed Gray, Bergvall, Sarr. Why? Why are they able to do that? Why are they able to do that without paying big money, without being better than we've been? I mean, the last 3-4 years, they've been better than us, but how were they able to do that? Smart recruitment. Smart recruitment. That's what it is for me. Smart recruitment. A plan, smart recruitment. All I hear from people is that you've got to pay over the odds to get anyone. No, you don't. No, that's not true at all. That's not true at all, is it? They bought John McGinnon, didn't they? He was the first one of all of these at 2.5 million. John McGinn, he'd be our best midfielder. He'd be our captain. He'd be our best player. They bought in Kamara on a free. Tielemans on a free. Yeah, I think Onana was like 50 odd million. But you look across those 4 midfielders, they've spent 52 million to buy 4 midfielders. I don't know the exact price of Onana. Somebody might tell me. And you just think, how can that club, obviously I'm trying not to, I'm trying not to base us against the bigger clubs, but how can a club like that do that? And yet we had to go and buy Bergvall and Sarr and Gray. And it's not against Bergvall, Gray and Sarr, but we didn't need all 3, right? You just needed one. You just need one young player. I know Sarr's getting a bit older now, but are you telling me that we weren't capable of doing that? Are you telling me that no one can implement a plan at this football club which says, right, first things first, let's go and be solid. Let's go and be solid, right? That's all Villa did. If you look at Aston Villa, what have they done that's above and beyond? What have they done that's crazy over the years? Nothing. All right, they stretched with their turnover to salary. Yeah, they stretched it. Sure, nothing stopping us doing that. But they've not gone and done anything bad. And JB, I think this is a great point, right? If we went and signed a John McGinn, our fan base would lose their mind. Every game you watch Aston Villa, he's involved in everything. He's a leader. We don't have those players in this team. He's good on the ball. He's good in the tackle. He grabs a few goals. He's a leader. But our fans, we turn our nose at. I know it's not the fans that buy the players, JB, but our fans turn their players up at that. Look at this guy. So McGinn would be our best player. Well, who's playing well for Spurs? I haven't seen anyone play well for Spurs for years. It's not about, I think that right now people aren't getting it. It's not about buying John McGinn now. It's about why have Villa been able to go and identify those types of players and we can't? Why? Why were they able to do it and we can't? Why were Newcastle able to go and find Guimaraes, Tonali? Why were they able to look at those players? Why were they able to identify a Livramento, to get him in, solid fullback, plays week in, week out? No, why are these clubs able to do that? But Tottenham constantly, we have to be different. We constantly have to go for this young profile and hope that everything works out. It's strange. I've always said this, that if some of these players from other clubs played for Spurs, we would really overhype them. Oh, sorry, we would really rate them. But when they play for other clubs, we don't get it. We don't do it. And as I said, there's some comments in the chat from the normal people that I'm just ignoring, that it doesn't matter what you say. They just don't get it. They just don't get it. These are the people that they want to see Bergvall and Gray, but then they'll knock a John McGinn. John McGinn is the captain of Aston Villa, who are in a top 4 battle every year for the last 4 seasons. He is the captain and the leader in the middle of the park of that team, but we wouldn't want him. Like, just if you will take a second to let that sink in, we wouldn't want that. And that for me, again, shows who are the children in our fan base, the arrogance of our fan base, and the lack of, I think it's the lack of understanding of what a midfield's meant to be. A midfield's meant to be made up of all different components. Right now, let me ask everyone in the chat, who would want right now, would John McGinn be our best midfielder? He's a battler. He's a warrior. He's good on the ball. He's strong. Watch him shield off players. It's the same as Conor Gallagher. When I've had, we wouldn't want it. I look at this midfield and just go, I don't want to keep any of them. I genuinely look at this midfield and go, I don't want to keep any of them at Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe in the future, some of them will come. But right now, this needs to be completely ripped up. And I think that there's unrealistic expectations from fans. I think that there's unrealistic player sentimentality. I don't think there's an understanding. I don't think there's an understanding, unfortunately. Like my mate Matt in the chat, he's got no understanding. He's saying he's the same level as Paulinho. He's a completely different player to Paulinho for a start, and is a much more rounded player than Paulinho. Paulinho is an out-and-out DM. John McGinn is a leader. John McGinn is a leader. He can play in the 8. He can go forward. He just goes all over the park. Right? But again, this is where we're at. The same fan. By the way, just think about it, right? When you see people like who I've just mentioned in the chat, this is the person that wanted Dibbling and wants to see Gray play week in, week out, then looks across the road at Aston Villa and says, yeah, McGinn wouldn't get in our team. And you're like, oh, really? And that's when you know that this isn't serious for these people. This is where you know we're not serious. This football club, for me, needs a squad built. We need a squad. We always go, oh, don't want Gallagher because we need this. I think we need everything. I think we need fullbacks, goalkeeper, centre mids, wingers, striker. I think we need absolutely everything at this club. I think that this is, and other fan bases see it. This squad for me is one of, then mate, you don't need to be here. You don't need to be here, mate. See you later. So this squad for me has been, over the years, by the way, this isn't one manager or one director of football. This is 6 years, 7 years of absolutely no identity. Just no identity. The fact that we get to match day, like today, I'm seeing all over the internet, people going, I'd play this 11, I'd play that 11. Every 11 I look at, I'm like, this is awful. But at the same time, I'm looking and going, well, this is what he's got. Tonight, we have no options anywhere on the park. We have nothing. Our only fit left back is Ben Davies. Our only fit left back is Ben Davies. We have no right wingers. We have no left wingers. Our strikers are poor. You've got Xavi Simons is back tonight. But this is, and I think this is a great point. I think this is a great point. Isn't it mad? We needed to upgrade all 3 of these, right? We needed to upgrade all 3 of these, and now we've downgraded on all 3. That is, I completely agree, Lee. And this is why the more I look at this squad year on year, I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? Who is pulling this together? But look, this isn't about Aston Villa and John McGinn. This isn't about Newcastle and Tonali and Kamari. This is just about what does Spurs want to be? Who's pulling the plan together? Is it Lang? Is it Paratici? Dale, I'm just going to give you a quick warning, mate. We're just getting so bored of this whole Frank Ange thing, dude. Like, can we not talk about anything other than Ange Postecoglou? It's just getting really, really boring, Dale. I get it. There's certain people like you, like Matt. All you want to do is everything you come in to do is, and I could say it's Wednesday and we're playing Bournemouth. You find a way to tell me the opposite. It's okay, mate. We get it. You don't like me. It's fine. Right? When people keep saying it's the same squad, no, it's not. No, it's not the same squad. This is the point. It's weakening year on year on year. It's weakening. And I don't know how we change this unless somebody's going to implement a plan. And that's why I'm sitting here saying to myself, guys and girls, I'm sitting here saying, I said this in the summer, and again, I was told that I was being dramatic. I think this is years and years to solve this. This is going to be years and years to rectify this squad that we've built. So, as I said, all people want to do is talk about that. I'm talking about this, the bigger picture. This is going to be years. This is going to be years. And when the transfer windows come around, this is where you start seeing, right, how are we addressing it? Because every transfer window that comes around, they are your opportunities to start implementing plans and processes and start building and the recovery years. Dale, one more, you're gone, mate. That's not what I said. One more, you're gone, mate. Stop, mate. Just stop. This is why I stopped doing live. Stop, mate. All right. I'm not taking prisoners anymore. You're gonna go. You're gonna go. All right. Just stop. The transfer windows are the only time where you can start implementing change. Right? We can talk about the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 20, 30 managers. That's fine. We can talk about all those managers all we like. We can talk about Daniel Levy. We can talk about Frank. We can talk about Paratici. But the question is right now, what are we doing moving forward? And this is why every time I go, do you know what? I've stopped watching YouTube shows now because every time I go onto the show, no one's actually talking about what do we do? How do we improve? Right? No one's talking about that. Everything is just Frank. And that's fine. And that's fine. But as I keep saying to people who don't want to listen, let's just assume Frank is sacked today and the new guy comes in, Iriola, I don't know, just Iriola comes in. We're still sitting here going, right, what's the plan? Right, we're all still sitting here going, right, what's the plan? Who are we buying? How are we building? What's the process? And this is why we are allowed to have some YouTube shows, by the way, that are more than just Thomas Frank. Right? And I feel like unless we start getting this right over here from the top, I don't know what's going to change. I genuinely don't know what's going to change. Now, at some stage in this transfer window, we are going to sign a player or two, whether that's on loan, whether it's a permanent. But right now, who in the chat, who actually believes that we would have done our homework and gone out and bought with a plan in mind? Is there a plan in mind for Sousa, or is he just another young name? I don't know. And this is what I tried saying this in the summer, and I was beaten at every turn by every Spurs YouTuber. Said, I don't see the plan. When everyone was raving about this window, I don't see the plan. And this is what my man Philly said. You can get random players and chuck them into a manager, but what's the plan? With other clubs, you can see what they're trying to do. You can see what they're trying to build. I don't see what we're trying to do. I've not seen it for, I'll be honest, I've not seen it for decades. Even under the Poch era, I didn't see what we were trying to do. We had a good team, but we didn't do anything behind that to show, right, this is the plan. This is how we're going to move forward. Every signing we make seems to be a replacement because somebody's injured or somebody's left the club. We don't actually seem to go, right, how are we going to build the squad? And again, this was my big issue in the summer. We talked about replacing people, but we needed to add as well as replace. We needed to add. We needed to thicken out the squad. We knew we had Champions League. And how many years have we done this? Whether we've been in the Champions League with Conte, with Pochettino, how many years have we done this? You get to those, right? Who has done this? Whether it's Levy, whether it's ENIC, whether it's, I don't know, Paul Mitchell, whether it's whoever, Paratici. When do we, and that is why in the summer when everyone was going, we bought in 4 first-team starters. Well, let's be fair, you bought in Kolo Muani on the last day as an absolute panic, right? So it was no part of no plan at all, right? You bought in Paulinho on a loan. So what was the plan? I like Paulinho, but what's the long-term plan? If he was the guy you wanted, why didn't you go and buy him? And if you wanted to loan him so that you could spend money elsewhere, why didn't we go and do that? So I'm just left all around the club thinking, what are we going to do? Equally, if Thomas Frank is the guy to build a plan, back him. If he's not, sack him. I don't get it. I just don't get, all of the dots don't add up for me. All of the dots don't add up for me. This isn't about just the owners or just the manager or just the players, just the director of football, the scout. None of it for me adds up. And when people come at me and go, oh, Frank, as I said before, right? As I said before, I wanted Frank, but not for 6 months. I wanted Frank to give him some years to build, and we go in a direction. If the owners don't want that, and that's not what we're going to do, and we're just going to buy more kids, then sack him and just get somebody in that covers for a year, and then we go somebody else for another year. That's what I've said all along, but people don't want to hear that. So when I've got people every day going, oh, you're wrong, your manager, I'm saying, well, hang on. I didn't say I want the manager for 6 months. I said I want Spurs to build, and I was hoping there was a plan. I was hoping that Spurs would say, right, we're going to get behind a manager. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rocky. What are we going to do? But looking at the links in this window, 19-year-old kids, and for all those in the chat saying, who can we attract? I'm not saying we can attract Semenyo's when Arsenal and Man City want them, but we can still attract footballers, right? If Brighton can go and get Pascal Gross, right? You're telling me we can't attract a player as good as Pascal Gross? But I'm just using him as an example before everyone goes mad, before everyone says, oh my God, Savva wants Pascal Gross. No, I'm just using it as an example, right? We can attract, no matter how bad we are. Sorry, James, I'll come to you in 1 second. No matter how bad things are, we do still have a name where we can attract a level of footballer, right? So when you've got people that are telling you, who are we going to attract with Frank? Well, hang on, Paulinho came to play for him, and people were happy with that, right? Mawani, who was at PSG, came to play for Thomas Frank. Kudus, who was at West Ham, came to play for Thomas. So all of this, suddenly, no one wants to play for Thomas Frank. Christian Eriksen went to Brentford to play for Thomas Frank. You know, all of this, all of a sudden, that no one will want to join Tottenham because Thomas Frank's there is pie in the sky. James, good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, mate. Yeah, not great. I had lovely time off for Christmas, 2.5 weeks, thinking first time I've ever done that kind of thing. Start the van Monday and the engine light comes on. So you're like, all right, great. So now I've had another week where the van's in the garage. So it's, could do without it. But without that, mate, football wise, yeah, I'm just losing interest, mate, to be honest. I think that's the only way to explain it. I am actually putting it on, and I'm flicking through like just the watch alongs, because I find this more interesting than what I'm seeing.
It's tough, mate, isn't it? Like, do you know what? As a YouTuber as well, it's really difficult because, James, I'll be brutally honest with you, and I'll say this in front of the 500 people watching. If I wasn't a YouTuber, right, I would probably not really give a shit. I would watch the game loosely in the background, and I would stick to my word that until anything changes at the football club, I don't really care. However, James, I can't afford to do that, really. Look, look, and people are saying we're in crisis. I don't think we're not in crisis, right? We are 3 points off European football, right? So I think we need to calm down a bit. But what I would say is, I think the club is in crisis from the point of view of,
I'm just going to agree.
Nothing's like nothing. Listen, James, let's have a look at the Premier League table, right? When I look at this table,
actually going to agree with you. What you said there, I don't think we're in crisis as in we're going to get relegated, but I do think that now we're in crisis in the respect of the club. Where are we going? I mean, and now that Levy's gone, it's like Frank is the main target, rightly or wrongly so. It's just shifted rather than still looking at the whole picture, the squad. For me, I think the training ground, I've been to training ground loads of times with the boy, and it's so nice that it's nice. You only go there, you go, yeah, I can imagine it's been a really lovely day. Yeah. Like going there, getting all your breakfast served up. It's ridiculous. It's like a 7-star hotel. And you kind of think, yeah, I can imagine this whole thing being very, very nice. Where's the yards that are going to be put into this sort of grief day,
Do you know what, right? When I was working at Chelsea, and you'd go to the training ground at Cobham, don't get me wrong, it's nice, right? It's nice, but it's not like a day spa. It's not. Do you know what I mean? It's a football training ground. It's got all the mod cons, but then when you go to Spurs, and you know, like when they do those videos and they're panning, honestly, it looks like a luxury complex where the rich and famous go to pamper themselves.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Look, if we look at the table, I think, look, in terms of, I mean, Chelsea in 5th on 31 points, right? Down to Crystal Palace in 14th on 27. We're talking that 4 points separate what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams, right? So from that point of view, James, I'm not really too concerned about, oh my God, look, we're 13th. I'm not, because a win, suddenly you're 7th, a defeat, you stay where you are, right? So I'm not too bothered about that. My biggest issue has always been, as you know, what are we doing? And I asked in the chat, James, look, let's have a look at the poll. This was the question, James. It was, are we starting to see that Levy wasn't the issue? And big up to my man Durag Diaries, by the way. And asking, was Daniel Levy the only issue? Because for years, people like me as well, I was like, oh my God, it's all Levy, and Levy's the devil. Have we seen anything since he's gone? Either communication, the way the club's run, transfer window. Have we seen anything that indicates, yeah, we're going to really change and we're going to demonstrate to everybody that we're different?
Well, I think when he left, I thought there was a very smart publicity stunt from the club. Vinay come out 3 times, Lange come out straight away. It was all like, we're building this relationship again. Like, he was the devil. Because I think Vinay come out and did 3 interviews. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be. The moment we hit a rocky, this is my problem with the club, whether it's Frank or not. That's another question. But my problem is, they come out and built that relationship, or kind of fed me the image that Vinay is going to come out and talk to us. Lange is going to come and be this guy and he'll communicate with us. The moment we hit a rocky patch, I feel like Frank has been left on his own and everyone's blaming Frank for everything, whatever they want to make of that. And they're kind of skipping the whole picture. Squad's not good enough. Is the manager good enough? Is the owner prepared to invest how they should be? There's so many kind of like knock-ons for me on this ladder that it's all falling on Frank's head at the moment, which is, again, rightly or wrongly so. But for me, there's a bigger picture, and there's 10 slices of pie, not one.
Yeah, I think it's the interesting thing. Look, people are obviously welcome to have their debate on the manager and what's going on, and that's fair enough. Look, some people like him, some people don't. Some people want to give him time, some people don't. But you're right. When you put that to the side for 1 minute, and as I keep saying, if another manager was suddenly put in the hot seat tomorrow, James, me and you are still sitting here tomorrow morning going, all right, okay, I keep using this guy as an example. Okay, Iriola's the manager, but we're still sitting here going, right, all right, ENIC, who we buying? What's the plan? What? And yeah, the football might be a little bit prettier and yeah, all of that stuff. But realistically, does anyone think if a new manager comes in right now that all the problems go away and suddenly Spurs go from a mid-table team to knocking on the door of the top 4? And that for me is the bigger issue. Sack the manager, Paratici can go. But if these guys up top don't show us that they're interested, then where do we go from? Like, where do we go? Or are we turning into? Somebody said this the other day, so I can't take credit for this, James. Somebody said the other day, we are turning into Everton of the South, whereas Everton were once a massive football club that are now just existing in the Premier League. They're just existing, aren't they, in the Premier League? They're never going to win anything. They're not going to get Europe. They're just... Is that fair?
But I think that, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few things there. I think potentially I was slightly harsh on Ange last season, and I'm happy to admit that. Don't get me wrong, I thought the football he played was suicide. But maybe he realised that we have no midfield similar to what we have now, even though I think Maddison's top. But barring Maddison, I think that we've signed Xavi and Polina, who kind of improve our midfield. So maybe I feel like I was potentially a little harsh on Ange with the set of players he was given. But where, like what you're saying there about the actual club as a whole, I agree. I don't see where this club is going. I felt like, if any, it was going to be now that the actual owners prove a point and make Daniel Levy the scapegoat, because they could have come out and gone,
Right.
Bang, here you go. This is what the problem is. X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And
look how we bought in week one of the window. Look how we've acted. Look at the intent. We mean business.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Right.
if it was me and you doing a show and you're saying negative, 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 first thing I'd do is kick you off and go, look how positive everything is. And everyone go, okay, this is better. Yeah. And that's kind of what that's what I was expecting. But again, I'm hearing things that are no different. So again, maybe we was harsh on Levy, even though we heard everything we heard, because we heard that we bidded £8 million for this Brazilian left back. Well, they said they wanted 15. Well, no, but we bidded 8. It's like, well, that's exactly the same as before.
Yeah, that's a Levy strategy if you've ever seen one.
Yeah, exactly. And then you hear the whole, well, we need time to get the right players. Well, Palace signed Brennan Johnson on a day. Semenyo, all right, and even though he's played a couple of games, he's been signed, sealed, done for 2-3 weeks. We're now hearing Mark Guehi's sort of...
Sorry, just quickly, did you hear? So this is what they said yesterday. So I think it was... This, you know, that little group of Ornstein, Jacobs, Alex Crook, Romano. Two of them said yesterday that the agreement was done ages ago with City, but that the agreement included that he was allowed to play
Arsenal,
the next 3 games and then join. And how good is that as a club? We go, yeah, go on, he can play.
But the thing is, yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like you're saying, you can have these agreements. Even Brennan Johnson, he was done ages, so there's proofs in the pudding. And we've seen how quickly we can recall people from loan and get them back out on a loan. So we can cancel their loan contract, get them back at the club, sign a new contract, and get them sent back out. So it doesn't take 3-4 weeks like everyone's making out. If you're getting these people in and out instantly, it is what it is. For me, it is showing signs that there is absolutely nothing changed. And look, I think Levy was a big problem, but when you've got a ladder of problems and you're taking out one step at a time, I just don't think it's fair. And I think, look, I'm not happy with Frank from what I'm seeing. I'm really not. But I do think that when Frank's at the bottom of the ladder and all these problems are above him, he's just getting everyone falling to the bottom of the ladder, blaming him rather than actually addressing the problems above.
Do you know what I think? What I think is funny is it's revisionism for me, which I think is great. So, for example, you can't have a conversation with Frank now without people turning it into, I wish we kept Ange. Just because you didn't want one manager doesn't suddenly mean that the other manager was right. Equally, just because I didn't want Ange doesn't mean that Frank's going to be a success at Tottenham Hotspur. The only thing I've said, James, with this, and the reason why I don't lose my mind like everyone else is, I'd like to see 3 things happen with Frank before I turn around and go, get out, right? 1, I'd like to see him have his own players, right? I don't mean, we've given him 2 players on loan and 2 players that were absolute panics at the end of a window. I'd like to see him have his own players over a number of windows. I'd like to see him give him more than a year so we can say, right, all right, mate, you've had a year now. What have you implemented? You've got your own players. What have you implemented? Have we evolved? And the final thing I want to see is that we turn around and go, right, we've backed him. And by backing, I don't mean you're going to get the Semenyos and that, but that we've backed him with enough quality to say, yeah, sorry, Frank, look, you've got enough players there. The football's still shit. I was willing to give you time. It's not worked. See you later.
Of course.
But if we don't do that, and I've said all along, James, I know no one listens to me. I'm cool if they want to sack him. But the bigger picture is that we're still going to be sitting here talking about the same things. Now, when people are talking about league position for 1 year, that's not what I'm talking about. Whether or not Spurs could sneak into 5th this year or 7th, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where are we going as a club?
Yeah.
And for years, we focused so much on this manager finished 5th, this manager, but we don't sustain it. We don't turn around and go, okay, we finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Look what we've built behind that as a philosophy or an ethos so that we maintain that level. We didn't do it under Poch. Let's be fair. That team that was brilliant under Poch, the moment that team started to break up, funnily enough, what happened to Poch's results? Right.
And also, I was watching a show. There's a couple of things I want to say on that. So I was watching a show yesterday and people were going, Poch. And I said, fine. I said, and in a chat, I said, you do realise that Poch was on the borderline of getting sacked before Harry Kane stuck that free kick in the top corner. Like they were a point where people were going, Poch ain't the one. He's suicidal. It's panic, 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 panic. It takes a season. So for me, that's the same thing. Look, I'm not happy with Frank, but I'm prepared to give him the season. I expect to see after this window two things. One, I don't want to hear him say, I'm prepared to wait until I get the right players, because even though I think that that's lovely and that's how I want him to act, we can't finish the window with the same players that we've got and not improve, because then that I feel like he's giving the board a little bit of an excuse. Whereas if I can't have him, I don't want anyone then. So let's not spend any money or make any different. So that for me is one
it's a good
thing.
notion, isn't it? It's a good
Oh,
notion.
absolutely.
My man, but at Spurs, are you going to get your target, right? So
Well, yeah,
I
it's okay going up to Real Madrid and saying, well, our first target is Camavinga. You come in, mate. No. Well, I don't want anybody then. I'd rather stick with Archie Gray. Well, there's a huge ladder in between there. So for me, that kind of thing is like, okay. And I do feel like he's putting that pressure on himself by continuously saying, look, I don't want a short-term fix. I want a long and short-term, which I agree with. But I also feel like this morning I had a conversation with somebody and he said to me, as if I want to hear Frank saying, Arsenal, Man United, and Man City or Liverpool, it was, can attract better players. I said, but he hasn't lied there. So what are you not happy with? And he went, well, all he said that was good was the training ground and the stadium. And I kind of went back to him. I said, at the moment, mate, I don't know if I was a Premier League football player, what I would come for, unless you're going to be kind of advertising to the right players. So, I mean, me and you spoke quite a lot. I would like Gomez from Wolves. I think there's no issue with buying someone like Gomez from Wolves, because I think he's going to go Wall, Tottenham, ground, training ground. Wow. Like, there's more than enough to go donk, donk, donk. Yeah, but I think if you're going to go and get a Semenyo, barring the training ground, stadium, a bit of history, winning the Europa League, I think you're going to find it really hard to sell somebody like that our club and go, look, other than guaranteed minutes.
So, James, that's what I said for years. Sensible, right? So, for example, if in this window you turn around and went, right, Gomez,
or just use that Paqueta, or someone like that. Like, that is where I'm like, they don't have to be top, but Kudos for me is not top. But he's been coming in, giving every minute, and he's played really well. There's been games, but he's played really well. There's Paqueta. I think you could potentially even go for Bowen if he was to prepare to pay top money. It'd be harder, but there are that sort of players. And then you kind of do look at your top players, the players that ain't getting every minute. Oscar Bobbs, Nathan Ake's, those guys that will come in and secure you for where you are. You can get midfield. I mean, I said about Conor Gallagher 2 years ago, and everyone said, no, he's rubbish, a headless chicken. I'm like, mate, what you think Sarr is, Conor Gallagher actually is. I think people would expect Sarr to be Conor Gallagher, but there's...
I think as well that I think the bar has been set so low because of previous signings over the last 10 years. Let's be brutally honest. We say 6 years since Poch left or whatever, but the signings for the back end 3 years of Poch being there were crap as well, right? So if you actually look, it's been a decade since we've really bought sensibly. Now, I think right now, if you turn around, I'm not saying all in one window, but if you turn around and said to me, right, we're going to end this window with a Lookman on the left, right? We've brought in Gomez and Conor Gallagher as a new look midfield, one who controls the game, the other is your box-to-box midfielder who's your leader that does everything. Suddenly you start going, yeah, these are seasoned pros who have been there, seen it and done it, right? Suddenly you go, all right, they're not Semenyos. Yeah, they're not Whartons, but you know what? These are good, solid pros that make the Spurs squad look better. The problem is, I think there's a real disconnect between what we get, what the owners get, what the fans want, and where we actually are. So when I see people say things like, just go and get Adam Wharton for 90 million, I'm like, I like the theory, but do we truly believe that if an Adam Wharton was available on the market, we'd be the only team that say, So for me, Gomez, if you rock up to Wolves now and go, listen, how much do you want for Gomez? You're going down, right? You're relegated. He's going to leave, right? How much do you want for him? Right, I'm just making, right, you want 50 million. You want 50 million. Bang. That solves such a huge problem for Tottenham. He's a ready-made international footballer that has played in the Premier League for years. He's got brilliant statistics. Watch him. He's a very accomplished player. A lot of our fan base, though, would turn around and go, what, Gomez? Because they think we're there. They think we can attract that level up there. And James, we've not been that club for decades.
Well, since Poch, I think Poch was the only time we could have, because we were second Champions League final. That for me, again, you put that down to the board and yeah, so on. But that for me again was that, right, you've missed that opportunity. You really have missed that opportunity. And for me, the start of the season was also the same, because it was like, you've won Europa League. You're now a international like cup winner. And people are there or thereabouts. Whereas I just feel like we've dropped the bucket again. Like you're saying. I mean, I'm not saying Adam Wharton or Elliot or Morgan Gibbs-White would come, but I would definitely like the club to sort of be linked with him. How much is he available? You know, and kind of put that feeders out. And that's what I thought I was going to get from our new owners. And we're getting exactly the same as before. Well, we'll give you €8 million. Oh, well, we'll see. Then we want 13. All right, 5 days later. Well, but they're potentially talking about agreeing €13 million. It's just, for me, I don't feel like we need the top. I don't want any more kids. And by kids, I don't mean like wonder kids, like Yamal. I'd take Yamal. But I mean, I don't want any excuses for fans to say, yeah, but he's young. No, I don't want that anymore. I want he's good enough. If he's not good enough, get rid. Lubo, I love Lubo, but he would stand by Bergvall, Gray and everybody, but then complain that the squad's not good enough. Well, at some point, we're going to have to let these guys go to bring in better, to sort of reach where we want to be. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in that kind of whirlwind, expecting players to turn into Harry Kanes. It's not going to happen. We need to start acting like a club where we are. So if we're predicted to finish 7th, all right, I don't want to kind of buy everyone from below us, but then you kind of go, right, who's expected to finish below us? So your Morgan Gibbs-White, your Elliots, your Whartons, your Gomez's, whoever you think that would be, whether you're going to get him or not, you need to be asking those questions. Is he available? Could he be available? Would the club sell for X, Y, Z? You can kind of have that brief conversations, and they may be. I just thought we would hear a lot more about things than we have. It just seems exactly the same as last season.
Look, I agree. For me, I've always said this, right, is I kind of feel like I've accepted what Tottenham are at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean that when people go, oh, change your ambitions. My ambitions can be to win the Champions League. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen, James, right? For me, I just want sensible. I want Spurs to be a sensible club that when a signing comes in, you go, yeah, I get that. Yep, solid signing.
Robinson, right, another one.
Right. Okay, right. Exactly, right? A Robinson. And this is why when I use the Villa example, I know people get bored of me doing it, James, but I use it because they've positioned themselves into a team that compete for the top 4 every year for 4 years now, without actually going out and buying anyone that you would go, oh my God, did you see who Villa bought? Like, name me one player Villa have bought where everyone went, oh my God, Villa signed him.
The only player I would say that they signed from a big club and he's absolutely flopped is Sancho. He's probably the only one where they went to a big club and went, I'll take him. And he hasn't fulfilled, proved, is in the pudding there, where you kind of think big name, big money.
Even when, welcome, Ben, I'll bring you in a second. Even when Aston Villa loaned 2 players last year, right? Look at we were loaning Tells, right? They were loaning Asensio and Marcus Rashford. Like, the levels are different. And people are saying, like, that's because of Unai Emery. What? So Spurs couldn't have got Asensio or Rashford on, like, again, it's just these levels of, we don't ever seem to want to do anything sensible. It always needs to be, but in the future. And this is why I do struggle with a lot of the panel shows. I keep going onto the panel shows and hearing how good some of these young players are with no proof. I keep going to these panel shows hearing about how good Richarlison is and Adogi is and Porro. I'm not. My eyes tell me different. And Ben, look, welcome to the show, mate. I hope you're well. Happy New Year and all that.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Look, I just think I'm just trying to have a conversation where it's not dramatic and it's. Look, it's just, this was a chance, Ben, wasn't it, for the owners to say, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen, Ben, not saying, but 7 days in, you're a quarter of the way through the window. This was a chance for Spurs new owners to say, look, here's
draw a line under the and say, okay, it is different now. But
Yeah,
what we're saying, James said it before.
19-year-old left backs, Ben,
yeah.
is what we've bid for. It's pretty.
It's because they know. James said it before. James has sort of stole my thunder, so big up for our power. Spurs fans are fixated on the romanticism of seeing a Roy of the Rovers go from being a child to being Harry Kane. Spurs fans are fixated on it. I don't understand it. We're the only top football club that has this mentality. I saw it on Facebook. I said it on my show the other day. I saw it on Facebook. Spurs are linked with a progressive, all-action midfielder, and you're thinking, the first word you're thinking is Conor Gallagher. That's the player you need. All-action, leadership. And you got 200 comments under that Facebook post, and I made sure I looked at all 200 of them. I would say 80% of the comments are saying, isn't that what Bergvall does?
Yeah,
no,
I know.
No, that's not what Bergvall does. Bergvall runs around like a blue-ass fly, runs into corridors and gives the ball away 90% of the time. And it's not like I'm saying Bergvall can't be a good player, but that's not what Bergvall does. He's not a player that gets on the ball, puts his head up, puts the ball into the channels. He is someone that he's someone that likes to play from the front, likes to press, likes to try and win the ball back and then give the ball to someone. That's what Bergvall does. He's a high energy, closer to like a number 10. He's not a player that you say, yes, get him on the ball, he's going to make something happen. He's not that player. But Spurs fans have already made up a fake opinion about someone, thinking they can. Players have different skill sets. Players have different skill sets when they become footballers, and that is perfectly reasonable. He's not a Tom Huddleston, for example. Spurs need a Tom Huddleston type player who's going to get his foot on the ball, see a picture, see a 90-yard diagonal ball, and put it on a sixpence for someone and get us up the pitch. But Spurs need a player that can dictate a game, because Bentancur can't do it anymore. Paulinho's never been that player. He's always been that, almost like a Højbjerg plus in a way. And I'm not trying to diss Paulinho. I think Paulinho is a bloody good at what he does, but he's someone that turns the ball over and gives someone who's better at football than himself. And that you do need that in your team.
Ben, can I say, I've never seen a fan base of a club like Spurs before who are so adamant that so many of these players aren't good enough for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Whilst praising players that have done absolutely nothing. Honestly, whenever one of these things, I'm not on it. I've only got access to this X account for transfer purposes, right? I'm not on X. Every day, you can imagine how many posts I get sent. Like Ben, right now, if Spurs sign Conor Gallagher, for example, 95 people would send it to me as though I've never seen it. Do you know what I mean? Like 95 people would send me the same post. But the number of posts I get sent where it'll be like, oh my God, have you read this? And it'll be somebody saying, we don't want Conor Gallagher because this is everything that Bergvall does and we just be blocking his development. And you sit there and you think, are we watching football? Like people who say this about Conor Gallagher, by the way, clearly haven't gone and done their homework on him, Ben, because I keep telling people in his last 2 years in the Premier League, when he played for Chelsea, he was in the top 5 for every metric of midfielders. That was tackling, recoveries, passes, dribbles, shots, goals, headers, distance covered. He was in the top 5 of all of those things. Most fans I speak to sit and go, wouldn't want Conor Gallagher. You're like, sorry?
He makes everyone levels better. This is how bad it is, Savva. Jordan Henderson from Brentford comes in the Spurs team and makes us levels better. That's how bad our midfield is. And Jordan Henderson, I think, is over the hill, but he's showing how good of a football brain the man has. He's gone into Brentford and he's been sensational this year for Brentford. I know with Brentford and the two clubs are being brilliant for Brentford and being brilliant for Tottenham are two very different things. But Spurs need someone with a football brain. I don't think we've got any football brains in the team. I don't think Bentancur's ever had a football brain on him. And this is someone that actually quite likes Bentancur. He's sort of, him and Paulinho are very similar. win the ball back, and then give it to someone that's better at football. Win it, and then give it to someone that's better.
Ben, can I tell you something just quickly? Last night, right, I was watching the West Ham game, and at half time, I switched over and watched 20 minutes of quickly get there, Savva, Sassuolo versus Juventus, right? And you know what I noticed? In just the 20 minutes I watched, Locatelli just runs a game of football, right?
Yeah.
And what I noticed is whoever won the ball back for Juventus, straight away, where did every single pass go, Ben? Into Locatelli. It didn't matter where he was on the pitch. They gave it to Locatelli, and Locatelli was always in space because that's his brain. And it was, right, let me start this move. I'll pass here. I'll pass to the forwards. I'll pass this. I'll slow it down. I look at this midfield of Spurs and go, who is it that our fans think can...
It's all frantic, isn't it, Savva? It's all frantic. It's all, we've got to get forward. We've got to get forward now instead of thinking, right, let's build a picture. Let's build a move. You've got to see the pictures. And Glenn Hoddle talks about this. He loves the word pictures. You've got to build pictures of what can happen. You've got to build moves. With the moment we get the ball, we're blasting it forward and thinking, we're going to win. It comes straight back because we don't have anyone that can hold on to a ball for 5 minutes. I mean,
that's a worry, isn't it? See, now I knew that the moment I mentioned that you get slower pace in Italy, though, Savva, but that's exactly the job that Declan Rice does for Arsenal in the Premier League. That's exactly the job that Caicedo does for Chelsea in the Premier League. That's exactly that. I could keep going and going and going and going. It's absolutely mental, James. For me, no matter what, again, Park, Frank versus Ange versus Glasner. At the moment, I'm just looking at the squad. If we do not start getting some football brains into this team, James, I can't see how we're ever going to be a proper, organised football team. I really can't.
No, I agree. And I don't necessarily blame some of the fans for thinking what Bergvall and Gray and that are. We've been so deprived that the moment they see one flick, one control, one pass, they're like, there's a player in there. We've been lucky enough to see loads. And I'd recommend them that go in and watching football abroad. For me, I don't feel like we need any more children. I don't feel like we need any more tricks, flicks. I don't feel like we need any more. I know the common things nowadays seems to be like workhorse. He works really hard. I don't want any more working really hard. I was brought up in a day where you let the football do the hard work. You don't have to do the hard work. If you're good enough, the football does the hard work for you. We spoke about it loads of times. Back in the day, we are crying for a Michael Carrick. That is what we need.
Yeah.
Somebody that's just going to take the ball, pirouette, turn, and do absolutely nothing else. And if you was to look at his stats, you would probably go, average football player. But there was so much to that turn, pass back, turn, pass sideways, because it's just relieving the pressure. And this is where I say, and I know you just said that Gomez, Paqueta, I think Paqueta could do exactly the same thing. I think if he was asked to just control a game of football, I watched him yesterday and he looked like he was the attacker, the midfielder, the defender, the winger. He was everywhere. And, you know, like somebody needs to get him in and just go, relax. Just do the one job and you'll be okay. So for me, I agree with you. We've got to stop this whole praising these players to the hills. We had it with Kolo Muani, mate. I said from day one when people went, but did you see his control? Hold on a minute. The guy's a professional football player. I would expect him to be doing that every time he got the ball, not once. There has to be this kind of level of, right, we're not where we think we are. And that's hard to accept. That is quite hard. If you think you're a Champions League club and you think you're a Europa League club, it's quite hard to accept you're not there. You now need to like shop in the pool below. But that pool below isn't always duds. I mean, Semenyo come from Bournemouth. Does that mean like he's a dud? Because I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, we don't want to keep signing players from the league lower. Like, for me,
yeah, we're all pining for Bournemouth's manager, even though they're not doing well at the moment.
You see, this is what I find mad. What I find mad is I heard the other day someone said, well, hang on, we all want Iriola, who's won 1 in 13 or whatever it is.
I don't think he's won in. Is it 11? Is it 11 without a win? Is it 11
without a win? Yeah, but he's got Spurs tonight. So don't worry about that. Right? But it's something like 1 in 13. And the thing that made me laugh is that was asked to somebody on a panel show, and they turned around and said, "Yeah, but at Spurs he'd have better players." And I thought, will he?
Yeah.
Wait, will he have better players? By the way, sorry, I've got to show this. So this made me laugh. So this person here said, Rice is awful on the ball, though, right?
That's the best footballer that's the best midfielder in Europe at the moment, by the way. And I'll say it. Declan Rice is the best best midfielder in Europe at the moment because he's the best player in the best team in Europe.
And Declan Rice is the guy.
I disagree with that,
by the way. Right?
We'd have this conversation, James.
So Declan Rice is awful on the ball, apparently. But look at this, right? By the way, the guy in yellow. Anyone? Can you guess who the guy in yellow is? Who
is
very good. These are really good data. The guy in yellow is very good data. The problem is Spurs can't attract a player that has the data of somebody like Declan Rice, right? There's a reason why Declan Rice is 100 million and plays for Arsenal. But the guy in yellow, who do you think that is? And I think that's a very well-rounded midfielder.
Yeah, other than progressive passes, everything's pretty decent.
That is Yao Gomez. Right? Now, this is the thing. This is where I think we are. Listen, I'd love to think that we can go out and find a player of the ilk of Declan Rice. But realistically, even if a Declan Rice was available in the market, he's not choosing Tottenham Hotspur, right?
No.
A player of that ilk is not. But look at that from Gomez. Really good at everything, like a well-rounded midfielder. And at the moment, when I look at our midfielders, right? When I look at our midfielders, I don't feel like there's a well-rounded one anywhere there. I feel like you've got Bergvall who runs around a lot. Other than that, I genuinely don't know what he does. I genuinely don't know what he does. Archie Gray, I think is dreadful. I know people have a go at me. I think he is absolutely. I do not know what this boy does. I don't. If he was playing, my uncle said to me the other day. My uncle used to be the academy director of Charlton Athletic, right? And he said, if he was playing at Charlton right now, he wouldn't even stand out. He would not. And I was like, yeah, I agree. Right? You've got Papa Sarr, runs around, just runs and runs and runs. You got Bentancur, who gets it, 5-yard pass. You got Paulinho, who is sublime at tackling, but isn't a footballer, so to speak.
Yep.
Yet a player like Gomez, you can see there, he's good at everything. He's good at winning the ball. He's good at giving the ball. He's good at passing the ball, progressing the like. We just don't.
And that's playing for the bottom of the league as well, so he would naturally get better with.
Right.
And this is where we were. I think we all agree. This is where we're saying they don't have to be £400 million, £100 million players to sort of come in and be a good upgrade. He would come in naturally and upgrade everything, absolutely everything. But you're right with the people overestimating everybody.
But this is the problem. Look, do I think we can attract the best players? I absolutely don't. But can we attract levels above what we've got in our central midfield or on our left wing or up front or at left back? Yes.
Just need better, Savva. Just need better.
If we rock up right now to just by way of example, right? If we rocked up to Fulham right now, or it wouldn't be Fulham. If we rocked up to Anthony Robinson's agent, right, and said, "What's the sitch? We want you." Right? What are they going to ask for? Would he make the move from Craven Cottage to Tottenham? I'm pretty sure he would. We could probably, I don't know what he's being paid, but we can probably double his wages or definitely double his wages. Right? What's stopping Spurs do something like that?
2 players I'd have from Fulham, Savva. I'd have him and I'd have Sanderberg in midfield. I'd have him.
I'm at the stage where I'd have Harry Wilson and Sanderberg in midfield, mate. I genuinely don't think I've seen such a poor set of midfielders at Tottenham for many years, mate. For many years. And by the way,
Spurs fans are so busy looking at there. There would be nice. Just there. Spurs
this
fans
is what I said to us earlier, though.
Adam Wharton. No, we just need there. And then next summer, you go there. And then you go there. And then you go there.
If James did that, I think if the board did that, people would go, okay, couple good players in there, move on to next. Now, what are you going to do? Whereas it's like the board have kind of started the window and it's just the same. You know, I don't mind us being like in the summer. I don't mind us being linked with all those players and signing Kudos and Xavi if that's what your intentions are. But you have to kind of continue that. We're now a week in. I mean, Savva, me and you spoke about this in the summer when everyone's going, yeah, but wait till they go on tour. Wait till they get back from tour. Wait till this. And before you realise it, what you're going to do is you're going to sign Andy Robertson or Gomez, say the 30th of January. We have then got a horrible February. So they're thrown into games where there's Arsenal, Liverpool, United, Chelsea. You're like, oh, well, he ain't very good. On their back, straight away, game over. Then it's going to take us even longer. For me, we need them in now because I think we've got 3 or 4 games that are winnable. Not we're going to win, but winnable. We have to get them in now, win the games that are winnable and go, right, we've got 2 or 3 wins under the belt here. Buckle up, boys. This is a really hard period here, but let's see what we can get. Whereas what we're going to do, wait till the end of the window, trigger some guy that's a left back from Brazil who's going to take 3-4 weeks, 8 to settle in, adjust to the country, adjust to the temperatures, languages. Then we're going to go, well, it'll be in on February, March, and then the season's over. And we were in the same position. And then Frank's going to be fired, rightly so, with how the form is at the moment. But he's been given no one in time to sort of react. I would like Club to go out and buy 3 or 4 players. Then I'm going to say, right, Frank, there is no more excuses now. So if we signed Paqueta, Gomez and Robinson, I would now say, look, I know you've got injuries, but there's no excuses. I expect to start seeing your kind of football. And if there is none, 2 months down the line, I'm like, right, I'm happy. I've seen enough. You're gone.
But James, do you know what? Let me back up your point here. This is why when people keep going on a bit about Frank, if using those 3 you said, for example, if Spurs went and got in Gomez, Paqueta, just for example, and Anthony Robinson, and then you go, right, okay, now Kulusevski's come back in January, February as well, right? Oh, now Maddison's back, Solanke's back. If you've now got that, you turn around and go, dude, you've got there's nothing I can back you on now. You've got enough there. You've got enough options. But what I can't do, I can't judge a manager after 6 months when his forwards are Tell, Odegaard, Mawani and Richie. I can't judge a manager after that many months when we're still having to play Ben Davis, right? Of course I can judge him, but you know what I mean? I can't judge him to the point where I go, well, hang on, mate. Like, everyone talks about Ange. Ange had injuries. Of course he did. No one's doubting that. But we also saw what happened when Ange didn't have injuries. And we also saw that his system didn't work when he didn't. So I want to give that same affordability to Thomas Frank, like you said. Sorry, Thomas, you can now put a midfield 3 out there today of Yao Gomez, Maddison, and Paqueta. You've now got Lookman on the left, Solanke up front, and Kudus on the right. Right, let's see the football. And if it doesn't come, you turn around and go, sorry, Frank, I've backed you and you've shown. But we won't do that. What we'll do is we'll sack him, we'll bring in the next guy, and the next guy is going to have to hit the ground running immediately. And I don't see it happening, James, unless we bring in those competent footballers.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
For me,
absolutely.
Let's have the frank conversation every single day. That's fine. But my mind is not going to change now on whoever the next manager that comes in, guys. I've said this a million times, right? If Spurs sack Frank now, whoever the next manager is, I'm having no opinion on them, right? I'm having no opinion on them. I'm just going to say, good luck. Go on then. Take your time. Good luck. Because our fans in the next 3 months will go, oh, what? What? You mean he's not got Tell, Odegaard, Richie and Mawani firing? What?
Yeah,
you mean
exactly that.
don't look good? Like,
exactly that. And I don't think, and in fairness as well, to those fans that are kind of criticising, I don't think that we need huge signings to see a difference. So for me, if you have a midfield of Polinia, Gomez and Xavi, I expect to see something from that. I think that's good enough to sort of creep into the top 7, top 8.
Agreed.
And then if you have a backline of what we've got plus a Robinson or someone that's actually fit left side, I'll go, okay, top 8 comfortably. And then if we signed a left winger, I mean, it's hard to sign a right winger when you've got Kudos, you know what's going to happen. But if we signed a left winger and you started to see, right, he's good. When Kudos comes back, we're going to see even more. Then for me, again, I'm like, okay, so a left winger, a centre mid and a left back. And I'm like, Frank, it's over to you now. There is no more hiding. There is no more, yeah, but we couldn't bring him on or we couldn't bring that guy on. It's like, no, I want to see something. I don't want to see Barcelona, but I want to see keeping the possession. I want to see counter-attacking. I want to see I want to see Ange football. If that's his style, then I want him to go, right, defence is crap. We're going to sit on the halfway line and counter. Or the attack is crap. We're going to sit in our own 6-yard box and we're going to counter. So there are ways around. And I think 3 players away from saying, hang yourself. If you're going to hang yourself, hang yourself. If you're not, fry it, do it.
James, I agree. James, this is thing is, this is all I've said. I know that in the world of YouTube, people could just go in or out. All I want to see is at least to let a manager show us what he can do with a full squad and some of his own footballers. If that doesn't work, you're right. James, I will join the bandwagon. If that happens and it's still shit, I would turn around and go, you know what? I was absolutely wrong. I've backed the wrong horse. But the problem is, we're not even going to get a chance to see him with Kulu, with Maddison, with Solanke. We're not going to get a chance to see him with a left back that he wants, a centre mid that he wants, a left wing that he wants. So this isn't me. I've never once said, James, that, oh my God, Frank is the guy that's going to lead Spurs to glory. But Frank, for me, is a guy that I think can come in, stabilise it, make sure we're not 17th at the end of the season. I still think we will finish 7th or 8th at the moment. I do, because the Kulus, the Solankes, the Maddisons will come back. So I do think that we will finish higher up.
There. Yeah.
And if you go from 17th to 7th or 8th, I've not really got a problem with that. Do you know my problem, James? It's going to be the same thing that I've sat on streams for 5 years with Ben Kaufman talking about. It's not about where we finish at the table. It'll be in the summer. I'm going to go, right, what's the plan? Because we will have a bad window again and fans will go, top four this year. Based on what?
You know, I think and I agree. I mean, I feel like we agree there, to be fair. I feel like a lot of the stuff that you've said, I feel the same. Look, but I also do want to add, I haven't seen anything from Frank to kind of go, right, yeah, I'm excited for the future. So there is a catch-22. But my main thing is at some point, the fans have got to let go of trying to be right all the time. And by that, I mean, they get on a player's back straight away. I mean, the latest topic is obviously Vicario, and rightly so. Vicario is making mistake after mistake after mistake. But what they tend to do is they tend to eliminate all progress from history, i.e. the Monaco games, and so on and so on. There's been times, you know, people will look at the final. Yeah, but he flapped that punch, but he also saved us 2 seconds later. They will never look at the positive. It's always, look, and I think I've backed Vicario so much. And now I'm like, you've made too many mistakes for me. You need to start either proving it or you need to be upgraded on. And I'm okay with that because I don't say it's not Vicario over Tottenham, it's Tottenham over anybody. So it gets to the point where it's like, it's the same for Archie Gray. It's the same for Bergvall. It's the same for Udogie. Attell, Odegaard. At some point, we're going to have to say, you know what? You're just not good enough and move forward. But it's almost, I told you, Vicario. Every time I go on a stream now, I get, told you Vicario is crap. Told you Vicario is crap. Told you, and I'm like, all right, I don't care. It makes no difference.
We saw it this morning. People say, "I told you that." Oh, what's the striker from Juventus called? The Canadian Jonathan David. I told you Jonathan David wasn't good enough. I'd still rather Jonathan David than Solanke. 100%, I'd rather have Jonathan David than Solanke because Solanke has not played all year, and Jonathan David has. He has 3 goals. Solanke has no goals.
That is exactly the problem. Yeah, but people would rather be proven wrong. I personally believe now that people in the Spurs fan base would rather be proven right than watch our team win. I think they are so like, I told you, like I said, every time I go on stream, it's Vicario's crap, Vicario's crap, Vicario's crap. And I'm like, I know. I'm okay with that. Rather than anything else, it's always like, I want to be proved right, you're wrong. I'm this, you're that. Rather than actually support your club.
Do you know what it is, James, though? I think that what a lot of people are doing is really aligning themselves to a particular player or a particular manager. As I've said, all I want to see, I'm not wedded to Thomas Frank. I just want to see that he's given a fair crack, right? If it doesn't work, I mean, James, I'm 43. Do you know how many football managers I've seen come and go at Tottenham Hotspur? Do you really think
43, one a year?
Right, yeah, exactly. Do you really think that if Thomas Frank gets the sack, that I'm going to sit there as a grown adult and go, oh, well, Thomas? No. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, here we go again, right? So all of you're right. I watch so many panel shows now where when we win, people are almost upset, but it was still shit. But it's like, well, and when we lose, it's all Thomas Frank, and that's fine. But what I love is I'd respect these people more, James, if all the people that keep saying, I'm not Thomas Frank out, but just say it. Every show is hour and a half, 2 hours of slating him, right? Absolutely slating him. Cool. Just say Thomas Frank out then. Just say you don't want him here. At the moment, for me, I'm of the opinion, I don't care who manages this football club. I don't care whether you bring in Ryan Mason. I don't care whether you bring in Sam Allardyce. I don't care, because at the moment, until up there they change something, nothing's going to change. But all people hear is, you wanted Frank? Yeah, I wanted Frank. But do you think, guys, let me ask this question. Do you think if Tottenham Hotspur had a top squad and bought really well, that Thomas Frank would be my number one choice? Or do you think that Thomas Frank was my number one choice because I realised that we weren't that club and that we needed to build over a couple of years? Like, never gets taken into account.
Different employee for a different company. If you're finishing second every year and you need a new manager and you want to win, you bring in Antonio Conte or Jose Mourinho, a manager that's going to get you over the line. Spurs were conceding more goals. Spurs were conceding goals like a sieve last year. So you bring in a more defensive manager who's going to settle the squad, is going to make it a more cohesive unit again, and then you build. And then when you've built that strategy, then you can say, all right, we'll get a new employee now, because at the end of the day, football. I think people think they want to get not romantically. They want to get emotionally attached to a particular manager. At the end of the day, they're an employee of a football club. If they are an employee, they come and go. So,
well, for me, I don't say dream candidate, but I would be really excited to get Xavi in as manager. But I also think Xavi would be sacked within 6 months if he comes in under these football players. But if you was to pick someone to go, who would you be really like excited? I suppose excited. We're going to give the keys to someone. Who would you be? I'd really like to see what Xavi could do. The guy. If you talk in football, the guy is football. He's made it. He is the guy. And
then,
if he comes into Tottenham,
on the other side,
so much.
He was really good at Barcelona when he had Pedri, Gavri, Lewandowski, Koundé, all these like top quality footballers.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
Javi's going to see Bergvall and think, all right, I'll put you on the bench. I'm going to play instead because I'm better than you.
Well, and that's my point.
I'm better than you.
Well, not even that. Even now, look at our best midfielder. I'm not including Xavi and Maddison and stuff in that. Our best midfielder for me is probably Polina. That's who I think our best midfielder is. Xavi will get into Polina and go, what are you doing, mate? I expect a level of passing ability before anything else to be 4 levels above you. And that's our best midfielder. So, again, I would love him to come in, but he would need to go, no number 6. It would be Xavi, Elliot, all of those guys, or Gomez's, all in that one pot to go, right, I need all of you. I don't need one of you. I need all of you to play my football.
This is the point I've tried to make. Like, I've tried to be really calm about this, James, but I just get the same people digging and digging and digging. For me, this isn't that I wouldn't like to see a Xavi at Spurs. I'd love to see Luis Enrique come to Tottenham Hotspur. I'd love to see Nagelsmann. But the problem you've got is these managers, they would arrive at Tottenham, and you're right. Fair enough, they tried to implement their style of football. Spurs would be ripped wide open because those sorts of managers aren't stable. Like, what I mean is they're not defensively solid managers, are they? They are managers that rely on dictating the football, high possession, win the ball back, dominate, keep it, control the game. We wouldn't be able to do that with any of these footballers. So Xavi would come in, for example, and you would need to give him 2-3 years to get rid of to get rid of players, bring in a whole new batch of players. But the problem is, during that 2 to 3 years, people would go, oh my God, we're 13th, 14th in the league. He's got to go. We've got to sack him. Because everyone pretends that for the right manager, they'd go through the pain, James. They won't.
There's only one. We know who he is. There's only one because of what they've seen. So it's almost like Blinker, doesn't it? The only guy that would get time would be Pochettino because they've seen it. No one. It's almost like it's a myth. Only he can do that. But what they'll do is they'll go, it's only him that could do that.
If Poch had this team and Spurs were sitting exactly where they are right now, right now, are we that short-sighted as fans that we'd go, yeah, but we've seen what he does before, we'll sit and wait? Because for me, if we're going to do that, then no manager will ever succeed at Tottenham. If we're so wedded to the idea that Pochettino is the only guy that can do this, we're in trouble. As a football club, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the narrative, isn't it?
We've had this conversation that there are too many types of managers worth of players. There are too many managers. You've got 6 different managers worth of players. We need to shrink that to 3. That's why we need to, so we can have, okay, this team might not be good enough, but at least there's a vision behind the team. Whereas you've got one player does this set of things, this player does that set of things, this player does that set of things. We need a coherent vision of a football club or of a squad. We need players that fit into a puzzle. They do this. This is what they do. They play these little triangles, or they sit and counter attack. They work together. Like Arteta, all his players are his players. I know you can say, oh, he's been there X amount of years. Of course, all his players are his players. Well, you've got to give a manager at least 2 years to say, okay, is it improving? After 1 year, you need to see some level of improvement. Whereas you saw, like we had, last manager was here for 2 years. You saw 10 games and then it went boom. You need to see some level of improvement to say, okay, you're seeing it go up a bit and a bit. Now we're going to give you a bit more, and then you go.
Agreed. Do you know what, though? The funny thing is, just quickly, I know you need to go, James, and I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes anyway. The funny thing is that if we are just going to give managers one window, right, where we're going to give them 4 players, 2 of which are on loan, we will never, ever actually get anywhere because, Ben, you are spot on. We have got a bunch of players that have been bought for 6 different managers in this team. I think I put this up on the screen the other day. I don't know if I've still got it. I've not got it on here at the moment, but I put up who the players were here for. There were players bought for Jose, for Conte, for Nuno, for Ange, for Poch, for Frank. And all I want to see, and I've never said to anyone that I think it will 100% work. All I want to see is that we give Thomas Frank the time to say, right, the majority of this, at least the majority of this 11 is yours. The majority of this 11 is yours now.
Yeah.
What have you done? What have you built? At the moment, when you look at this team right now, right, the team that's played the last 3 games, Xavi Simons was his, but 4th choice or whatever, wasn't playing, right? Wasn't playing in the team. Other than that, this is still the nucleus of a team that's been built for 4, 5, 6 different managers with no style.
He's a substitute teacher. Basically, he's a substitute teacher.
Boys, I'm gonna have to shoot. But
thanks,
but I've actually really enjoyed this. It's actually nice to have a show where everyone's just talking rather than you're wrong and you're right. So
you're wrong, James. You're always wrong, mate. You like Vicario. Whatever you say from now till next year is wrong.
Yeah. So again, even people, mate, hit the like and stuff because I actually really enjoyed this. Probably been one of the better shows I've done where we've actually just chat through everything. So appreciate it, Savva.
Cheers, mate. No, it's because my show isn't just Frank out, and just constantly comparing to Ange and Frank. Thank you. I mean, Ben, look, we'll go for 5 more minutes and then I've got to wrap up. The problem that we've got is, let's look at a lower level. We always look at the bigger clubs. Look at the lower level, right? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but when you look at some smaller clubs, with Brighton, you know what type of player Brighton are going to buy. for the way that they play, and the managers they bring in play not the same way, but the basics are there of what each manager does the same, right? There's going to be variations. Brentford, you know what Brentford are going to buy for the way that Brentford play. They scouted brilliantly for the last 10 years. They've done absolutely brilliantly. You know what they're going to be, well organised. Everyone fits in, right? Bournemouth to a degree. And by the way, these clubs I feel sorry for because they just get ripped open every year for the players they sell.
The food chain, Savva. It's a food chain.
Of course it is. But the problem is, when I look at Spurs, we've never actually done that. We've never allowed anybody to actually go and build that. So if you turn around and said to me, right, Thomas Frank has had 2 years, he's had 4 transfer windows, 2 summers to get his ideas across, and we are doing that, I'm going to be on board, Ben, going, yeah, what, mate, you've got to go.
Yeah,
but
no excuses.
Just saying, well, this is where we started with this manager. He's now had 500 million, 4 windows, and we're going like that year on year. I'm comfortable with that, but we've literally got to 6 months in, 5 months, 6 months in, and it's not worked. Well, yeah, because we haven't actually given the guy a time to build anything yet. Like, he's had 1 transfer window where he joined in mid-June. So that is, for me, why I don't want to rush and get another manager in.
Because if you change the manager, the problem we've already got, you exacerbate the problem. Because then the next manager comes into not 6 different managers worth of players, he comes into 7 different managers worth of players. And the more you change, it's actually going to get worse. Because I've said it, I'm very cutthroat about this. I would sell 80% of the football team. I would sell 80% of them.
Agreed. I think you're kinder than me, Ben. You're kinder than me. There's not many there that I would.
80%. I don't. 80% of 25 is going to be like 17 of them. I think that's about right. So I'd sell seven players in the football team are good enough. 7 players off the fit. If all 20.
Just look at our midfield 6 options, right? Let's have a look. This is a great point, right? I'm bigging my own point up here, by the way. This is a great point I'm about to make. Right? Yves Bissouma was bought for Conte.
Yeah.
Right? As was Bentancur. Paulinho's been bought for Frank. Papa Sarr was bought for Nuno. Right? Bergvall and Gray have been bought for Ange. Like, what are we doing here? The mismatch. Now you look at every single one of Arsenal's centre mids. They've all been bought for Arteta. Right?
Yeah.
You look at all of the centre mids other than Joe Linton at Newcastle. They've all been bought for Eddie Howe. Right? We can do this we could do this with so many football teams. Right? But Spurs, we've got a midfield where 4 different managers have compiled the 6 midfielders. How on earth do you ever build and grow anything? Like, and that's not me saying Thomas Frank is the guy, Ben. I'm not. Yeah. But at some point, somebody's going to need at least 2 years to say, this is my squad, right? This is my squad. This is what I've coached. This is what I've built. It's worked or it hasn't. And we go, definitive proof.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
It's very simple.
Yes, exactly the same for Man United. That team's been built for Solskjaer, for Jose, for Solskjaer, for
Amorim,
for Ten Hag, for Ralph Rangnick. It's mad.
If Man United had listened to Ralph Rangnick, they would be in all the players that Ralph Rangnick wanted have all got the big clubs now. There's one of the things I would bring in. I'd sack both Langer and Paratici because both Paratici can only buy players from Juventus. And no disrespect to Juventus. Juventus are an enormous football club. Spurs need a different quality, not quality. Spurs need a different remit of a footballer to Juventus. They play in the Italian league, we play in the Premier League. So just buying good players from Juventus isn't necessarily going to work for Spurs. I'd sack them both and I'd bring in Ralph Rangnick as our technical director. And I'd say, right, that's a man that has experience in his job, knows what he's doing, will bring a type of manager that will suit the Premier League in his system. That's what I would do. I'd bring in Ralph Rangnick as our technical director. He could do 2 jobs until the summer. That's what I'd do. I'd bring a manager, a director of football like that, that's got a track record of scouting good footballers that then become better. And that's what, because that's the first thing that needs, before we change the manager. Our sporting directors are shocking. Both of them are terrible.
Do you know what? I'll say this. If Tottenham Hotspur had a world-class sporting director or director of football, whatever title you want to give them, right now, I'd say, cool, sack this manager, get a top manager in. If Spurs had a plan, a top director of football and good scouts, I would be all over saying, right, sack the manager, let's bring in this guy. But I keep hearing people saying, just go and get a winner. Which winning manager is coming to Spurs right now, right? And which winning manager is going to sit and say, yeah, I'll take 3 years to build a winning I just don't think we're set up for that. So I agree with you. Listen, I need to wrap up the show. I've got to do some super chats. Just before I do, that's all I want. If Spurs have a plan, I am more than happy to see any changes they want to make because there's a plan. If we don't have a plan, let's keep sacking. And I've said what will happen. I'll stick by it. If we sack him now, you are going to see an uplift for a month. And then you are going to see us revert back to the players not being good enough. It might be a bit nicer on the eye, but we'll be exactly where we are in the league. And then fans will go, this manager's crap as well. Look, let me do some super chats. Big up to Ryan Trustane. Thank you very much, my man. Said, Savva, Happy New Year. Ever since Levy left, it shows he was not the problem. It is definitely ENIC. And now I feel sorry for Levy. Look, Ryan, for me, the jury's out. I asked the question. I'm not saying I believed it. It is the first transfer window. But what I would say is in the 4 or 5 months since Levy left, I've not seen anything change. But it is only 4 or 5 months. So let's see what happens for the rest of this window in the summer. And we'll get a real good sample size of, is it ENIC or was it Levy or both? Big up to you, Ryan. Really appreciate you. Big up.
You can't say it though. That I know you've got to wrap up, sir.
Go on.
A company that's been around for 125, how long Spurs been a company? 140 years. It doesn't change in 6 months. I think we need to think of Tottenham Hotspur as a generational business. You can't just expect it all to change. That's not how business works. You change little bits. You don't just have a massive. You don't swing. That's the only thing. That's the Levy remit. We go from Ange, who's a manager that doesn't care about the details, to a manager in Thomas Frank who cares too much about the details.
Agreed.
That's Levy. That's Levy. Bang, swings, roundabout, attacking manager, defensive manager, attacking. So we need to slowly move over to a. We need to slowly move over. You're not going to expect a 100-year company to change instantly.
You know those pendulums that sit on people's office desks, the balls that swing from, that's what Spurs are. And as I've said, I am more than happy for Spurs to try and change managers, bring in a winner if there's a plan. But right now, if you bring in another manager to the club where we're still not sure if Paratici is the guy or Lang's the guy or it genuinely doesn't matter to me at this stage. And I know that really angers people for some reason, but hey, big up to Ryan. Thank you very much for renewing your membership, my man. Really appreciate you. And we are going to just read these 5 super chats out and then I am going. I need to get the dogs to the park because nothing says a cool January day like going into a frosty field and watching the dogs run around. Big up to Ryan again, who said, I'd be happy if Paqueta comes in. He walks right into the team. And so does Savio, but we should buy Paulinho in the summer. Look, I think that Paulinho was bought as a stopgap, if I'm brutally honest. I think he was bought in as a loan, as a stopgap. I'll be surprised if we buy him, but we'll see. Paqueta, for me, is much better than what we've got. So is Savio. But, hey, there's a lot of players, Ryan, that are better than what we've got, mate. DB Forever with a super sticker. Thank you very much, my friend. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. Very much appreciated. Jordan, always very generous to me. Thank you. A lovely £20 super chat. Says, I worry for this club's future if we can't go to a club like Fulham and get a player like Robertson at left back, who we desperately need. He's 28 years old. That's what we should be doing, not 19-year-olds. Jordan, bang on. It doesn't have to be Robinson, but absolutely bang on, right? All of this talk, oh, he's 28. Cool. You get another 3, 4, 5 years out of this bloke at the top level. But again, we would rather go for the 19-year-old because he's 15 million euros. And fans will go, but he's only 19. He's only 19. And that will be the excuse. Big up to you, Jordan. Really appreciate you, my man. The Wiz, very generous, has said, it's not who we are now, but who we want to be. The Wiz, the problem I've got, and I don't know if Ben agrees, I don't know who we are or what we want to be. I don't know either of those two things right now. Is that fair?
I agree.
Yeah. Big up to you, The Wiz. Thank you very much. Last two super chats. Big up to Rob Brown. Said, don't agree with everything Savva says, but there's a lot of truth to it. Great content as usual. Rob, as I said, man, listen, no one has to agree with me 100%. It just annoys me, the trolls that constantly, they'll say everything the opposite to what I say. And that annoys me because it's like, hey, it's Wednesday. No, it's not. But big up to you, Rob. Thank you very much. And last but not least, big up to Jordan, always super generous to me. Said, all these young players we have signed or being linked with, sorry if you can hear the dogs, we're being linked with stinks of Lang. It's worrying how much better have been since he left and how much worse we have got. Oh, it's worrying how much better Villa have got since he left and how much worse. Jordan, as I said, if there's no plan, what are we going to do? Bring in the winning manager that's going to work with Lang? It just doesn't matter to me. Big up to you, Jordan. Guys, I will be live tonight, 6:30, probably 6:15, 6:30 for the watch along. Match kicks off at 7:30. Tottenham with the best away record in the league, playing Bournemouth, who are the worst form in the country right now, with no wins in 11. I'm not going to say it, but Ben said it. Dr. Tottenham. We shall see. I'll see you tonight. Ben, thank you very much for joining. Really enjoyed that, my man. Thank you to James Flower. And if any of you need a plumber and live in that area, get over to James Flower. Much love. Take care. Let me see if I can quickly redirect you to somebody. See if anyone is live. I can't see that anyone is live other than TalkSport. I can't see that anyone is live. Much love. Take care. And as always, come on, you Spurs.